Hi everyone, my name is Enrico Cardona and happy Halloween to everyone. And as you can see, I've been busy with this. Now, of course, this is not the entire thing that I did on Halloween, but this is probably my proudest work that I ever done in Halloween season, and I wanted to share it with the world. It's basically my first time doing a carving of a pumpkin head and give it in my own, personality and my own imagination. And as you can see, I took inspiration from two things that I took from Halloween 2019. But basically, I could just talk about it. I'm gonna show you the entire video of how I did this and why did I decided to do the carving of a pumpkin and give it a paintings and everything. I'm gonna give my thoughts, the inspiration, and what was the mentality around the entire carving of a pumpkin. So no further ado, without any interventions or anything at all, enjoy the video. So, let's see. So, I'm making a pumpkin now. I just removed the inside, so I had to use a lot of these knives in order to cut the inside and remove the head. So basically all I did is cut it down with the knife and basically remove this and took away all the insides from the pumpkin. So for now I'm gonna try to clean a little bit more, but I don't see any more of this inside. I think this is a new thing for me to do, pumpkins. But I never done it before, you know. It's actually quite interesting to do it, especially now in my age. But well, I wanted to do something different for Halloween other than just dress up. So I think I want to get into the Christmas spirit. I mean the Halloween spirit, and just make the pumpkin. So now that we have the inside out, what kind of figure I wanted to do for this Halloween? So in order to do like a pumpkin face, you have to do the sketch first in the pumpkin. There are many ways to do it. You can do it on paper and then translate it into the pumpkin, or you can do it right down on the pumpkin. For me, I'd rather do it on the pumpkin so I know exactly where I'm supposed to cut, and the many sketches I can do, I can then repaint it later or maybe undo on the sketch itself. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you do the sketch and the pumpkin and you can do it, the cuttings there. Now for this one, I'm going to do two faces from two comic book characters that got their own movies. I first going to do Venom, so I have to do the lenses a lot bigger and the mouth and the teeth a lot sharper. So which version I'm using for the Joker? I'm using the Joaquin Phoenix version, since it's the one that came out in Halloween and that's the one that gave me more scares. So I'm doing this one along with the Tom Hardy's Venom. So I'm using a Sharpie first in order to cut and to do the sketching, and then I'm using a little knife in order to do the cuttings. Now this one is going to be a lot harder with the cuttings. You first have to do the cuttings really deep and make sure you don't miss, because otherwise you're gonna ruin the pumpkin and probably going to cut a part that you don't like. But that's the important part. You try and you fail, but you always try. But in this case, I'm going to try my best to do the cuttings a lot carefully, because otherwise it's gonna look bad in the end. I had to make sure that the rest of the pumpkin from the inside doesn't interfere with the pumpkin itself. And of course I'm doing the eye, which is much harder, especially when you're doing in a circular way, because when you're cutting in a circular way, it's going to be a lot harder and you might dismiss, especially when you're using a knife in which it doesn't allow you to cut like in circles. It just cuts like straight forward. Maybe for next time I need to buy like a more sharper tool in order to do this type of details, because if I'm going to do this like in every Halloween, I need to have like the best tools to do this job, especially if I'm going to make this for a living in Halloween. That would be fun. Now I'm doing the Eye of Venom, which is going to be much difficult for me to do because, like I said before, it's going to require some really good strategy and really firm hand to know which parts to cut. So I'm doing exactly that. And I had to admit, doing this type of eyes is something that is very difficult for me to do. But it's not impossible. I can always try harder and harder to do this, and I like to do the challenges. It gives me a new perspective and a new point of view and a new skill. Now for the mouth is going to be even more complicated. You see, the teeth is the most difficult part in a pumpkin, especially when you're doing multiple teeth. I had to cut it really carefully and not trying to cut the teeth out, otherwise it's going to look bad. You have to do really carefully, and it's going to take a lot of strength and a lot of balance. When I mean balance, I mean you have to be very strong when you cut it and very careful when you do so. It's never easy to cut a pumpkin's face, especially when you're doing the mouth. And you have to be very careful when you remove the rest of the pumpkin from the parts you cut. Doing mouths is very difficult for me to do, especially when I'm carving in a pumpkin. Maybe that's why many people just do squares on the teeth of the pumpkin, because it's very simple, straightforward, and it doesn't get in the way. And it's only one teeth, which is an entire different story. But I had to do the challenge of doing the teeth in multiple ways, and I had to make them as many as possible. Because Venom, for me, it always has those sharp teeth that can always eat your brain or just cut your mouth or cut your entire arm in half, or, well, that's the kind of thing that like a monster like Venom can do. I mean, it's unsettling and it's scary. It's like the boogeyman. You don't know where he's going to strike or eat you, but you always feel the pain and the bites that he has. And it's fun to do. I like to do that. I had to be very careful with the carving of the teeth, otherwise I will cut it. Now that I did the mouth of Venom, now I have to do the mouth of the Joker. They both have giant smiles, doesn't it? I mean, the Joker has like different types of smiles. I mean, from the Cesar Romero, from the Jack Nicholson, which is pretty much a prop, with Heath Ledger's cut out mouth of the Joker. The simple one is obviously Joaquin Phoenix. It's just a giant smile. And don't get me started with Jared Leto, because wow. I think it's as good as time to reveal why am I choosing Venom and Joker for the pumpkin. Well, Venom for me is a creature that strikes fear in Spider-Man because he's always in the shadows and always lurking. He always can strike Spider-Man not by attacking him directly but indirectly. Strike down to the enemy, like going after his friends, going after his loved ones. That's what makes Venom such a frightful character and villain. It's because he can always strike in the shadows and infiltrate your family and your loved ones, and somehow trying to turn them against you. That's what Venom is, at least for me. While this Venom from the movie is more goofy and more, lighthearted for the general audience, I had to admit I had fun watching him, and it's good to see that a creature like that can be overcome on screen, even though it's a big giant CGI villain. Or creature in this case. And why did I choose Joaquin Phoenix's Joker? Well, put simply, he's a villain that comes from a psychological point of view. You see, he had a multiple backstory in this movie, or at least his point of view is that he had a lot of situations that involved him as a nobody and wanting to be a somebody, someone that can make the people laugh. He tries to get by into a darker world, but after finding out some secrets about his own mother, as well as the truth about his relationships with the entire world and the people he comes close about, he starts to losing his mind. And you wondering if he is either laughing out of fear or out of joy or out of anger. You don't know his psychological turmoil, but you know that he's going to go out of nowhere and kill you without hesitation. And that's what makes him a scary villain in this movie. Because this Joker is unpredictable and very scary. More scary than Heath Ledger if you ask me. Because you know what he's thinking and what he is going to do. And when he does it, it's very dark and very scary for a lot of people. Alright, now that I have the sketches and the cuttings, now I have to do the paintings. Now, for both sides, I have to do different colors. In the case of Venom, since it's very dark, I'm using acrylic painting. I have to do the entire side in color black. I had to paint the entire side into a dark color. Pretty similar to the movies and the comics. After all, Venom represents the dark side of everything, of Spider-Man and the people he comes across. He's that dark shadow that you try to avoid, but is somewhere deep inside of us. And that's what represents Venom for me and a lot of people. The dark side of you trying to come out and trying to take over. Venom has gone from many iterations, from Flash Thompson to Deadpool to Anna Wang, the wife of Eddie Brock. So many people with the symbiote. I'm doing the signs a little bit more, symbiotic. That's what the point of Venom is too. To be a little bit more symbiotic and scary. Did you know that there were different colors for Venom over the years about the symbiote? Most of the people that I see reading the comics see Venom as a dark character. But there are other colors that they use for Venom, like blue, purple, and even sometimes a little bit yellow. I don't know why, but that's the point of the symbiote. It's always changing forms and colors. That's what the point is of a symbiote. It's multicolor. Okay, now that I have Venom's side done, I'm doing the side of Joker now. Now, this is an important tip, but when you're using the same brush, you have to clean it first. Otherwise, you're going to have mixed colors in your paintings. So you have to clean it up with either a towel or some wasted paper or something like that. Just make sure that you have your brush clean. Now that I got my brush clean, now I'm doing the face of the side of the Joker. And like many Jokers before, his face is completely white, with a little details on the face like a clown. Has anyone wondered why we have fear around clowns? Why we find them so scary? Well, it's not hard to say. It's because they have exaggerations around their face that we sometimes find frightening. A lot of people use clowns nowadays to do scary stuff. And they're supposed to bring us laughter, but nowadays they're going a reputation to be scary too. Hopefully the pumpkin in this case can be scary as well. Especially since I'm doing one of the most famous villains in Batman's lore. Although I have to admit, Two-Face is my favorite Batman villain, and it's funny that I'm doing two sides like him, right? I always see Venom and Joker like two yangs. And they have different colors, like yin and yang is very indistinguished. Like yin is white and yang is black. But in this case, they're both yangs. Weird, isn't it? Although, to be fair, in recent years, Venom has become more of an anti-hero. Weird, isn't it? Alright, I think the entire side of the Joker is completely white. and I had to make sure the entire face looks really pale. Well, now that I'm done with the face of the Joker completely pale, now I can use the same color of white to paint the teeth of Venom. While I was doing this, I got to myself, why am I not doing this in yellow? Because the yellow could be also monstrous for Venom, especially around the teeth. It was something I realized too late, and I just decided, screw it. Let's do the entire teeth of Venom white. You have to make sure that the pieces that are left on the pumpkin don't interfere with the painting. Otherwise, you're going to have an uneven sketch or an uneven piece. You know, in recent years, I realized that all we do in Colombia in terms of Halloween is just playing dress up. And don't get me wrong, I like to play dress up all the time. I like to do a lot of variations of dressing, and of course I didn't do so much of partying with a different suit. My favorite suit that I wore as a kid, it was the one with Two-Face. But I had to admit, it was fun. It was great to do that. I also loved doing the dress up of Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, as well as Spider-Man, which is always my favorite one. And my last one that I went with a party is the one with the Punisher. And I had to admit, I love being the Punisher. But in recent years, I had to admit, I wish I could mix Halloween with art. I'm redefining a little bit of the pale face of the Joker side, as well as trying to avoid any, mistakes on the sides. So I'm doing exactly that. I don't think I ever see someone do paintings on a pumpkin. Maybe on YouTube, but it's rarely an occasion, don't you think? Oh, and I was watching a video, if you're wondering why there's a computer behind the paintings, but it doesn't interfere and the light interferes with the video, so I'm not worried about that. So I just poured in more of the black acrylic in order to paint more around the face, since I noticed that there was a little bit more white on the side of Joker than it was Venom, so I'm trying to rectify that. It occurred to me that a lot of children don't do a lot of carving of the pumpkin in Colombia especially, and I'm hoping that while I'm doing this, I can inspire someone to, take this to the next year of Halloween, do more carving of pumpkins. I don't think I ever saw children do that in classes, and that's something that maybe children should learn to do, because it will help them to be more creative in the future. Alright, now that I had both sides painted, now I have to do the details. First, I'm doing Venom, which is the tongue. Now, I was wondering why I didn't use a prop for the tongue, but in this case, I just wanted to do paintings to experiment. A little advice when you're doing this kind of stuff in a pumpkin, you have to wait until the entire paint is dry so you can do more details with more paintings. Otherwise, you're gonna have, like I said before, mixed colors. It's important to keep your priorities when you do paintings like that on check, otherwise you will have an uneven sketch or an uneven piece. I said a sketch a lot in this video, didn't I? Oh well. I see this more like an experiment, and that's something good because I can learn from this experience. Alright, now that I have the tongue done, I think I have to do the face now for the Joker. Now, there's red on the eyebrows and red on the mouth of the Joker. So, I'm doing exactly that. The mouth, I'm also using a little bit of painting on a little bit of the inside. So it looks more unsettling when you see this Joker. I had to do a big giant smile. Similar to Heath Ledger, but not quite. I mean, how else am I going to do like a big giant smile on the face of the Joker without using stitches, because that's difficult and painful. Looks great, isn't it? Looks unsettling, looks scary, and it looks something that you don't want to see every day. Kind of like what you want to see with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And let me tell you, he's 10 times more scary than Pennywise in any iteration of It. I'm telling you because I saw the movies. Alright, now that I have the mouth and the eyebrow done, now I'm doing the eyes. Specifically the two triangles that are on top on or around the eye of the Joker. In this one, I'm doing a little bit brighter blue. I wanted to do like a tear for this one, but I couldn't do it since the space doesn't allow me to do so, but it doesn't matter. What matters is just the two triangles that I'm doing around the eye of the Joker. In recent iterations, we see that the Joker only has black eyes, only to emphasize how scary he can be, but I never see a Joker that has blue makeup in his face or around his eyes, because the eyes are more linear dark or scary like that. But that's something out of style, and that's something that many people want to variate in recent years. Do more interpretations of the Joker to be more, different with the makeup and around the eyes and the mouth. There's many iterations of the Joker. Either way, now I have the paintings of the eyes done. Very scary, isn't it? And like I said before, you can paint a little bit on the inside so it doesn't look, that scary or not that simple and two-dimensional. Alright, now that I have the eye of the Joker done, now I have to do one for Venom. Very unsettling and very scary. The way Venom is supposed to be. A little bit of white around the lines and a little bit of white on the inside, and then you will have a piece of Venom that it will scare you forever, especially when you put a jack-o'-lantern inside. It's important to mention that it's very, very, very important that you have to take out all the stuff that is inside the pumpkin, because I always run the fear if I put like a light that is like a fire or something, I could burn my piece, or worse, I could burn myself and cause many damage to my house, to myself. It's important to do that because, a little bit of detail about the eyes, make it a little more painting on the inside, a little bit more, and you will have a finished piece. Not perfect, but one that I'm proud of. This is an important thing to do. You have to clean up your space, otherwise everything will look bad. So you have to close down every painting's bottle. You have to make sure that it doesn't get dried. You have to clean your space. You have to take away the rest of the pumpkin. You have to throw it on the trash, of course. It's important that whatever pumpkin residuals there are, that you throw it on the garbage. Otherwise, you will have a terrible space of work and it will smell badly. You have to put the rest of the pumpkin on something like a garbage bag or a thin can or something. But you have to make sure that it doesn't get residuals, especially on the inside, if you're going to put it like a lantern inside the pumpkin. I had to admit this experience was fulfilling to me to do. And that's something that I want to do more in Halloween rather than just plain dress up. You put the top inside the pumpkin and you will have a finished piece. I have to admit, I have fun doing this. So I think for next time, I'm going to do more pumpkins like that. I just have to buy a lot more and make it a marketing. Wouldn't you agree? But I had to buy it before October because those things can sell very fast. This wasn't easy for me to get. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you like this, please leave a comment down below, subscribe, like this video, and I hope to see you guys soon with another review. So I've been Enrique, and I'll see you next time, and happy Halloween.